kind of start off talking about this character, I'm gonna start at the beginning. In Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, in this game, he was just known as Naked Snake before he got the title of Big Boss. He is assigned to rescue this Russian scientist, Sokolov, before he could finish plans on a nuclear weapon. So Snake's job in that mission is to rescue him. So he has Major Zero, paramedic, and the boss on his support team. So he goes in and rescues Sokolov, gets ambushed by Ocelot, and if you call Major Zero after you're ambushed by Ocelot, it will trigger if you try to call the boss's codec. She will not respond. It will say no response. So if you call Major Zero and ask him why is the boss's line dead, he'll ask him that, and Major Zero will respond, well, I guess it's something to do with her end because she's in a sub. So obviously the connection is going to be a hit or miss. So maybe that's why you're not getting any response from her. So you take it as that, and then you go into the next cutscene after you face Ocelot, where you kind of catch up with Sokolov, and there you meet the boss, and that is kind of the first emotional, critical moment in the game where you're just like, what? Like, is she here to help? And then she drops the bomb and says, Sokolov's coming with me, and I'm defecting to the Soviet Union, and you're just like in the same boat with Snake at that point. I mean, be it you don't really know the boss that well, but you feel the emotional weight that scene has. The way that the music is played, the way that it's just shot, the cinematography in that scene, you know the weight of that decision and what she said. You know instantly, and as soon as Snake tries to stop her, she pretty much subdues him, destroys his gun, and just humiliates him. She even went as far as to dislocate his arm and throw him over the bridge. This is a really strong point in Big Boss's career where he starts to understand that, there are people in the world that you cannot trust. And that's a little bit of an overreach kind of conclusion, but, it really makes you think, this person was, highly respected on Snake's end. Snake really looked up to her, and they both kind of had this strong relationship, this maternal relationship. It's like if you grew up with your mom, and then when you're like 20 or 30 or whatever, your mom tells you, fuck you, I don't like you, and this kind of just betrays you entirely. But that is just on a more amped up level, because even their relationship between the boss and Snake kind of goes beyond maternal. Even so, it's a maternal kind of relationship at a glance, but the more that you kind of delve into this relationship, as more as the game kind of progresses, you kind of understand that it was more than just that. He even as far to say that she was his master, that heaven belongs to her, and it was just this big conflicting moment where you just sit there and you just don't know, can you beat her? And even when throughout some of these scenes where you meet her, like when you first infiltrate Grozny Grad, then when you kind of return to plant the C3 charges, she still kind of overhands Big Snake, and he kind of destroys him, kind of defeats him, and kind of gives you the incentive as a player to kind of, yes, I want to, kind of turn the tables on her, but you kind of you're in the same boat as Snake, literally, where you just kind of feel that, you really respect this character. You kind of sit there and like, man, she's just this character that's just this badass. I don't know if I could beat her, but I want to beat her. But I don't know if I can. You're just in this kind of ongoing battle throughout the game, and you're not even sure if you could beat her. And then, when you get to the final boss fight with her, the camera just is stuck with the bird's eye view, even in the newer models, where you just newer versions of Snake Eater is still stuck in that bird's eye view. And you just feel the intensity, where either one person will come out alive and one person comes out dead. It's, no victory, no defeat. Someone is going to end up with a loss. And you just feel that severity and weight of that entire accumulation, because this is what everything was leading to. Be it wasn't really planned. I mean, the boss even went to say that she didn't intend to fight him, but this is where Destiny kind of pit these two characters, these two behemoths of character. One had a legacy of being that character that helped, the victory within World War II, and she raised Big Boss to kind of be the character that he is and we know him as. It's this ultimate kind of climax within the game, and the music is just muted almost. Like, you just hear the Snake Eater theme near the end of the timer that the game gives you. Yes, the game does even time within the 10 minutes that she gives you, and if you don't beat her within those 10 minutes, both of you lose, and you see a cutscene of the planes that are gonna come bomb your ass. It was just really intense and touching, where you just kind of, it highlights the emotional impact of the game, both as watching the story and just as a gameplay standpoint, where the game really tests you on your CQC and kind of your ability to adapt to any circumstance, because the boss won't be afraid to humiliate you just if you make one little slip up. There have been moments where I accidentally either roll into her, or if I stand out in the open too much, and then she just immediately runs at me and punishes me for making such minute mistakes. It's really, the game is evoking this kind of this test system with a character that it's just this very remarkable moment where you just kind of sit there and you're just trying to push Big Boss or Naked Snake at the time to victory, but you know what's at stake. And then you finally defeat her, and at what cost? I mean, after you go back to America and you get debriefed and you understand the true missions of the boss, understand what she really did was part of a mission that was handed to her, and you really start to question even the loyalties to your country. Even when the boss, as in the beginning, when she betrayed Snake, he kind of had this thought in the back of his head. He doesn't know who to trust anymore, because he trusted the boss all throughout his life, and then he found out that she betrayed him at that point. And then at the end of MGS3, when that even that was enough for him, he understood. He found out that even his own government kind of betrayed her, in a sense that they set her up to fail almost. And that was just kind of like the salt on the wound at that point. And that is kind of where Big Boss changes instantly. At the ending, you definitely see the change in that character. You don't really feel that, this character, he's not going to leave this event and just kind of be like, yeah, America. He's going to be bitter and pessimistic about everything that he thought was right. And you kind of see that even with Peace Walker. As you go through the game, you end up turning against America. You go against American soldiers and trying to find out what they're doing in Costa Rica. And as you kind of go into that, you tend to really face the boss and you kind of understand that Snake never really let her go. And even Kazuhira Miller even makes a statement of that to him in one of the boss fights after you finish it. That he says that he's let go of his country, his nation, his ideals, his beliefs, everything that made him himself. He kind of abandoned that, but he hasn't let go of one thing, which is the boss. He still kind of has this attachment because he doesn't really know, why she betrayed him at the end. He was so in that confusing state where he was just kind of going through the stages of grief, but he wasn't really accepting it. He still kind of felt bitter, just kind of an emptiness in him, because even you flash forward all the way to Metal Gear Solid 4, he says the day that he killed the boss was the day that he died. And that's really where kind of that character ended up being. And that's ultimately what I liked about that Big Boss, was that he's such a complex kind of anti-hero that you kind of feel a lot of sympathy towards. I never got that much from Solid Snake. I mean, there were moments in Metal Gear Solid 1 that kind of evoked that, but never on the scale of Big Boss. I can never feel like he could have matched him in that regard. I mean, Solid Snake is as great as his own character, but to me, Big Boss is way more dynamic and interesting. Like, each game, I'm just fascinated by how he, on this transition to where we know him in Metal Gear 1. I mean, a lot of people after MGS3 and after MGS4 kind of dubbed him as, oh, he was always good, he wasn't really a villain. They just kind of painted him the villain in Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, but he was really just trying to save people from oppression. But when you look at Metal Gear 1, though, and Metal Gear 2, if you just kind of look at what he was saying, there was some subtlety to what he was actually telling Snake in some parts, where he was actually kind of saying a lot of questionable stuff that wasn't really exactly good. It had good intentions, sure, but it wasn't exactly something that you would want, a hero to say. And he, at some point, you do understand that, this guy has to be put down because he's taking his beliefs and kind of perverting them in a sense. and even Eva in Metal Gear Solid 4 when she was a huge love interest for Snake by the end of 3. She even said that everything that was noble with the boss's cause kind of died between Zero and Big Boss, which is kind of this parallel between those two characters, where both these characters changed from Snake Eater. Really, everything in Snake Eater was the major force of what happened between these two characters. It kind of set the mark as where everything is going to go. Where Zero felt empty as Big Boss, but he didn't want to be in that situation ever again. He didn't want to feel the sense of loss and divide. So he wants to put this world in a complete control, and he wants to control everything. So he went on this kind of perverted ideology with the boss, instead of just being leaving the world the way that it is. He wants to control it so that we never have a instance, so that we don't have an instance of loss or just kind of misinterpreting the boss's will. While on the other side with Big Boss, he wants to free the world from that control. He wants to kind of bring about chaos. He's almost like an anarchist. I don't want to say that he is, because I don't fully understand the anarchist ideology, so I'm not going to fully devote that ideology just blindly. But he just wants to, have the whole nation of soldiers and kind of have this freedom, which is opposing Zero's will that he thinks that the boss wanted to control. And Big Boss thinks that it's all about freedom. It's not about control or unity. It was just freedom, and that's what he was fighting for. And just kind of this misunderstanding of the boss's will. And as they went on, even with Peace Walker, by the end of Peace Walker, you kind of see that they're slightly butting heads. Be it Big Boss might not have figured that Paz was sent in by Cypher, which is another name for Zero. He might have had a suspicion of it because he understood that Cypher was another word for Zero, but he never really outright said, "Oh, this is Major Zero." However, that might have been a tipping point where he might have had the underlying suspicion that Zero might be trying to sink him, grab him again and kind of force him to come back to the Patriot organization that he once left. So that might have also kind of pushed him in the direction that, maybe he might want to embrace MSF as a whole, and kind of, once provoked by Zero, might trigger him to kind of go into this war. And even when you see Ground Zeroes by the end, you kind of have this slight suspicion of that. I have a theory with XOF and Skullface, but that's for another video once I beat the Phantom Pain. But you can definitely see that Zero might be a major player within the Phantom Pain. There was a trailer where you kind of hear this guy talk about the boss's will. So that, to me, is kind of a nod to the possibility of seeing Zero in this game. And I really am interested in that kind of duality between, or conflict between Zero and Big Boss. I think that's very interesting, and Big Boss as a whole is just such a captivating character to look, to kind of see where he goes from, Snake Eater to the Phantom Pain. Is just going to be an interesting ride, and I really am interested in what Kojima has in store for this character, where I just sat there and was like, I felt really sad in Snake Eater. I kind of, every time I beat the game, I almost get, misty-eyed, just because of what happened. Peace Walker, it was just kind of heartbreaking to see, Big Boss finally move on and just kind of let go of this character that everyone kind of loved. And it was just kind of this emotional moment where he kind of, became his own man. And then in Ground Zeroes, you just have that loss again with MSF, and then in Phantom Pain, who knows what's going to go on in that game, but it will probably be an entire emotional roller coaster where you just kind of feel so many things towards Big Boss that it's just going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. This is, again, why I really like Big Boss as a character, and one of my favorite video game characters out of all the video games I've played. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one.